Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Lightbringer by Pierce Brown, book number 6 in the Red Rising series. So yeah, this review will contain some spoilers, not a whole lot, but we'll definitely do that in the spoiler section though. So with that being said, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and let's begin. All right, so this I have notes again. I'm trying to make a habit out of taking notes. So Lightbringer. So first, let me start off with this preface. Essentially, I have mentioned before in my previous reviews some time ago that I enjoyed the first three Red Rising books so much more than this back three. It seems like it's gone from regular sci-fi adventure to straight up sci-fi grimdark, and it's just honestly the best word I can come up with my experience reading this back three, and I guess it'll be four, is exhausting. I don't like a lot of the decisions that have been made by our main characters. It seems like it goes against some of the decisions they would have made previous, but there's also contextual information in there that kind of smooths that over a little bit, but not really. So it becomes just exhausting. Like that's the only word I got for it. It's just exhausting. So I want to kind of follow some of my notes and kind of talk about some specific points in the story. But first, I want to kind of give my rough overall non-spoilery kind of thoughts on the story and how this series itself is progressing. So I really do like the way Pierce Brown's writing is progressing. I think he is getting better and better with each book. I love his prose. It's similar to like an old book by, or to me it feels old, but Scott Westerfeld's Uglies, Pretties, and Specials series. And there was a lot of interesting colloquialisms and like slang term usage and stuff like that. And he integrated it into the story really well. And his prose were just like really well done in the way he integrated all that stuff. And I think this is another example of that same kind of idea being done really well. So the kind of the terms and stuff like gory damn and bloody damn and like just the way in which they talk, the way it's kind of pseudo ancient but like kind of refined, kind of erudite, modern in a lot of ways. I just think he's gotten really good with that, and I think it's particularly tricky using this first person kind of tense speaking, but boy oh boy, when you have multiple characters and multiple povs, this type of writing with this tense is very difficult, at least for someone like me. It makes it very difficult to follow each character. So that part I didn't like, especially when characters are similar and, tone and tenor, specifically because they're supposed to be reflections of each other. Like that becomes very hard for me to settle on the voice of the character in my own head. So I was listening to the audiobook. So when it goes from one POV character to the other, even though it says whose POV it is, few words in, I completely lose track of who's talking. So it might be more of an ADHD thing, or it just has to do with the fact that these characters are very similar in their own mind, especially in the first like 2/3 of the book. So apart from that, the setting and stuff continues to be really well utilized. It still kind of feels. I mean, I guess it's hard for me to make comparisons to things that I haven't watched, but the stuff that I know about The Expanse, because I've been basically procrastinating on watching and reading that for about a year now, that it kind of reminds me of that. The use of the entire solar system and stuff like that. And I really like that we get to see some of the outer moons and stuff this time around in this book. So it's kind of well done. I like the setting. I like the core of some of the characters. Some of their relationships continue to be a little rocky because some of the stuff that's going on in the back third or back half of this series, and some character relationships are rekindled and they're deepened and they're kind of changed and their dynamics and stuff are changed. And I really like the way Pierce handled that because I didn't see one of these reclamations happening, and I just thought it was, or reconciliation, not reclamation, reconciliation. I didn't really see that coming, and it just played very well, and I just loved it so much. But I honestly should have seen it as a clue, but we'll get to that in spoilers. So I think that's basically all my non-spoiler thoughts, though. I think the book is well done, but ultimately the subject matter of the book and the way in which we go into detail with it and some of the pacing of it leaves me feeling personally exhausted. And I'll, of course, talk more about that in the spoiler part. So, spoilers for Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. All right, so I have my notes here. Again, like I said, exhausting. So let me kind of, I guess, start off talking about why I think it's exhausting. It definitely has to do with the pacing. The way in which we kind of jump right back into the basically we pick up almost exactly where we left off, and I believe Morningstar. We're still on Mercury in the aftermath of the big failure of that entire attempt of Darrow to basically bum rush and blitz the entire campaign and end it all, and like just finish it and wrap it all up and stuff, and that just keeps failing every time he tries to do that, try to make one big push for the end, and it just doesn't work or whatever. So like that happened, and we're still dealing with stuff there. And then it feels like for the longest part of this book, it's like fighting a war from Mercury to freaking Mars and past Mars. It's just all the military stuff, all the actual, ironically, the action, the fighting, the actual like military, actions, ship versus ship, and all that kind of stuff that's going on. That stuff felt so incredibly exhausting to me because I think it has to come down to the pacing. It felt like we spent chapters on chapters on chapters on just tiny little military minutia, tiny little bits of information, tiny little bits of things that just weren't that relevant, little dynamics and like things that people were doing and stuff. Like a lot of it could be summed up, especially using this first person tense. A lot of it could have been summed up, but it felt like we were getting very granular with it, and that just dragged the pacing down for me to the point where I was getting exhausted because it felt like I was going through all this military stuff and dealing with these missions and like making these decisions and going, which is a plus to the book and the way it's written that it can immerse you like that. But all of this stuff is so incredibly tedious and exhausting that it just took me so completely out of it. And again, a lot of the character decisions of Darrow specifically that have been made lately, I just do not like. Like you were in Mercury. I understand not being able to make it back to Mars for the battle that happened previously, but he was in Mercury and then they go to Mars and there's like a battle that's happened. No, they go past Mars. They go to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and there's a huge battle happening above the skies of Mars or whatever. And you've been basically bitching for these 3 books about how much you miss your family and how much you feel bad about Pax and like being a terrible dad, and you need to do better and all this kind of stuff. And knowing that Severo needs to get back to his family, he just had a kid and stuff that he's never got to meet, and we found out in the last book that was murdered, so he didn't even get to know that. He doesn't get to go check up on his wife, see what's going on with that. I just don't understand how you go from Mercury to the moons of fucking Jupiter and you don't stop at home for 3 seconds. You don't even like when you get close enough to the orbit of the planet, at least within range, you send out some kind of communication. Get some updates or something. I just don't understand it. And it happened in either Morningstar or the one before that as well, where they were coming from the rim after he set up the stuff where he left the other sons of Ares and stuff, kind of abandoned them. He left the rim, went to Mercury, didn't stop at home while you have all these familial issues and stuff. You didn't even stop for a conversation. I don't understand the decision. I just don't. It seems like it's there to like kind of emulate this idea of like in real life when soldiers and stuff go off, they can be gone for years and years and years, and it's just like a whole thing. And it doesn't seem like it's that necessary because they're fighting effectively multiple different kinds of wars. These skirmishes are attached to very different like overall conflicts. So half the time they literally could go back to Mars or at least like talk to somebody. I mean, Darrow does talk to almost called her Pony. Talk to Mustang. I'm just call her Mustang. Talk to Mustang for a minute in this, or through basically intermediaries, but it just seems like such a strange decision. I think it's an attempt at preserving a level of motivation for the character's actions. I think that's what it is, and it's starting to come across very obvious and to the point of it being unenjoyable. It feels like a stupid decision, and I don't like it. And the fact that I think I'm probably just going to ramble and jump all over the place, but the fact that we have made this shift from basically the rest of the golds being bad to this development we gave Lysander and show that Lysander is a clear reflection of Darrow, to the point where up until the end of the book I thought he was going to start getting mad at the Golds and the way they're using him as a puppet, and like kind of rebel against them, and then join Darrow and see that Darrow and everybody else over there was correct. But no, instead of that, he like basically super commits to being a shitheel, and like he, oh my god, there's a plan where they literally all came together. Him with Cassius and stuff. I love that reconciliation. I thought that was really well done, or what I thought was a reconciliation, or was going to lead to one. In any case, like I thought that was just going to work out, and we're going to have like this group of people who've all been affected by the Golds in various ways, who's like kind of been shattered of the illusion of their supremacy and all this kind of stuff, that they would just work together and help free all the other colors across the solar system, and be all hunky-dory. Let's go against it. Basically, I guess to sum it up in a more contemporary way, I thought it was going to be like millennials and Gen Z that was just going to go and take out all the boomers, I guess. But that's kind of how I think I was positioning it in my head. So it's weird to me to have then not weird, but it kind of makes sense. The heel turn does make sense, and the entire progression of all the events of it makes sense. But I just don't like this. I mean, I guess that's the point. I'm supposed to feel that way, right? I'm supposed to be very disappointed by that heel turn and stuff. But Lysander getting this crazy bioweapon and then turning around and say, no, I'm going to try to continue to restructure the hierarchy and continue to reset, put it back in place or whatever, and do all this, and now he has this genocide weapon and stuff. It might as well be a goddamn Death Star. Like, it's just this whole thing, and I think my biggest issue is somewhere in this book, when I started to be able to separate Darrow's voice from Lysander's voice, I started to like Lysander, specifically when he agreed to that plan that would make him a puppet figurehead. But all of his internal struggle against that, I started to really enjoy that. I wanted that to develop. So for him to just be like, I like their plan, I just don't like the fact that I'm not, head bitch in charge situation. Like, just, I'm so disappointed in him, I guess. That's what it is. I'm just utterly and completely disappointed in Lysander. There was a chance. Okay, that's my Lysander and Darrow rant. Let's talk about Cassius. So I have written Cassius off for what has to be a good 4 books now. Since basically, I think they were in the institute together. They were on the team and stuff, and Darrow killed Cassius's brother and stuff. That was the origin of their fracturing from being best friends to being mortal enemies and stuff. So after that happened, I assumed that was too completely unforgivable and they would never reconcile or anything like that. And so I more or less just wrote them off. So when we started to get this Cassius Darrow reconciliation in this book, I was like, what? This is something I didn't expect. I didn't see this coming. And then like Cassius's energy the entire time. I love a character who is steeped in depression and trauma, but their defense mechanism is jokes. It's basically why I love characters like Wayne, and Hoyt isn't really like that, but like, it's why I love characters like that though. So him just in the midst of all this drab, dour kind of stuff that's going on, all this horrible war stuff, his snarky ass comments, his jokes, his pseudo jokes, and all this stuff just land so well for me. So I really, really enjoyed it. And that conversation between Darrow and Cassius, when he basically like explained to him, like, you're my best friend, you're my brother, like we're incredibly close and stuff, and like I do truly feel that way. And the fact that Cassius for a long time had been basically wanting that closeness relationship back, but assumed it was never possible, but then found out like he does care, like that entire thing down there made me cry. Like, it was just so well done. That usage of those relationships, that was masterfully done. That was probably my favorite thing in the entire book. I love that to death. But there's a flip side to this coin that I think is also interesting. I feel like as a result of repairing and reconciling Darrow's and Cassius's relationship, we shat all over Severo and Darrow's relationship. Their relationship right now, to me, I'm utterly confused. It's so, I mean, I'm not confused. I'm just very conflicted with how I feel about it, I guess. I feel like, it's hard to blame Darrow. Part of me wants to blame Darrow for Severo not being able to go home. So first, he essentially coerced Severo into joining him, going to Mercury and stuff when he didn't want to. And then when all of that went tits up, he gets captured and is basically tortured and stuff. It was in between books, but like he's been put through all this stuff. May have died, may have not died. They get him back. Darrow's very happy and excited and very grateful because effectively when, they met back up, it was because Severo was doing this guerrilla warfare thing and managed to infiltrate himself in and all this kind of stuff, and he saved Darrow before him and Cassius was going to be killed. So I thought that was really well done and stuff. And then like for him to find out about Odysseus or Ulysses, I believe would have been his son's name or is his son's name, finding out about it through Lyria. I mean, granted, Darrow didn't know to tell him, so it's not like he could have told him. But like, it's after like Severo has Darrow's original eyes. He has his original eyeballs. After that part where that happened and the closeness of the relationship there, it's just to see where it is now hurts my soul, I guess is what it is. It's the not destruction, but it's just like the disrepair of that relationship has reached a point where it's just, as an outside observer, you're heartbroken for it because it's like Severo is going through stuff that's just unfair. Like, it's just unfair to the point where he doesn't even feel like it. I kind of want to blame him for not going home to see Virginia and stuff. Virginia is Mustang, for seeing Victra, for not going home to see his wife and his girls and stuff. But he feels like he's not worthy to go home, which is why he went with Darrow to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. He feels like he's not even worthy to go see them because he wasn't there when his kid got killed and stuff. So he's dealing with stuff, which is why he didn't go home and doesn't call home and stuff. So I kind of get that. He's like, it's a self. But the thing is, I almost feel like after Darrow finds out and he kind of realizes all this stuff, he should have been like, trying to help him. He should have been like, no, you need to go home, like, and all this kind of stuff. Like, you can't, like, I mean, he prioritized the mission over Severo's family and Severo's going home to deal with that, which I kind of understand because Severo is literally indispensable in war, and he's Ares. He is the heir to Ares, and he's officially named Ares now. So I get it, but it's like, I think that's the point, though. I think ultimately that's the point of these back half books, because none of it's done by mistake, none of it's done sloppy, and none of it's done ineffectively. I just, to a degree, don't enjoy it because it doesn't give me the good feels, I guess. Am I realizing that as I do this review? The book is good. I just don't like that it hurt my fifis. I think that's the realization I'm coming to a little bit. But effectively, I think to wrap up this kind of rambly review, I think ultimately, though, this is why I have to consider these back halves of the Red Rising series to be severely grim dark. Not necessarily, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the greater nuance of subgenre discussion and stuff. So I don't know if grimdark sci-fi is called grimdark or if it's just like dark sci-fi. I don't know. I don't know the terms. But in terms of general colloquial, like in terms of stuff that I just came off of, like with Joe Abercrombie stuff, this very feels like freaking grimdark. Except the characters aren't very gray. They're kind of gray, but they're not insanely gray. They're just more, I don't know, they're like wading through shit, and it's like it gets in your mouth. I think I think that's the only way I can. It's so weird. I am so yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap this up. I've seen multiple reviews of this book, and some people basically praise it like it's the second coming, like it's one of the best books they've ever read, like it's great sci-fi. I'm wondering if it's just because it's caused basically emotional turmoil in me that kind of caused me to like, it's well done, it's well crafted, it's good, but it's not very enjoyable. It's kind of like, to take it back to the when I'm recording this, the episode of Wheel of Time that just came out was well done, technically well executed, but was not enjoyable. It's not a rewatch kind of thing. It's too heavy. So I think that's where I am landing with this book. So yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up before I just repeat myself over and over and over. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. How did you feel about Lightbringer? Do you think, much like the rest of the internet, that it's like the second coming? Did you think it was like incredibly exhausting? Did you did you feel pretty much anything like I felt? Are you lost and confused, or your fifis hurt? I don't know. Let me know about that in the comments down below. So as always, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.